Jim, thank you for having us out today to your
Not at all.
beautiful studio. So how long have you been based out in the studio for?
Oh, 30 years.
Wow.
I moved out here, I think, in '86. And myself and my kids sort of all crammed ourselves in here. And the dog slept in the bath, a big Doberman.
Nice.
And it's been all downhill since.
Good place to be in though, it's beautiful.
That's stunning. Yeah.
So just in reference to the piece that we have kind of behind us as well, recently you started, you're doing some pieces for the Reclaim 1916.
Yeah, Bobby Ball asked me to get involved. He's the sort of chairman, or whatever we call him.
Yeah.
Chairman Bobby. And I'm one of the patrons, along with a lot of people like Brian Friel, Stephen Ray, and the whole gang of people, you know what I mean?
And this came about, I believe, I read an article recently, well, obviously due to the quite shocking video that the government released.
Yes.
And didn't even put in anything about the rising, or didn't mention any of the leaders of the proclamation or anything. So
Well, I
you
was
guys
quite
are
complacent about it. I intended doing, to commemorate the rising, I intended doing an image of Pearse and Connolly, because
Sure.
they're both sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
One the nationalist, one the socialist. And when that thing came out, I remember thinking, God, they really are serious.
It was
They really
shocking.
are going
Yeah.
to, manipulate our history, have a nice bit of revisionism, and then we had that clown, John, I always get his name wrong, Bruton,
Yeah.
coming out and saying, sure, we didn't need a rising at all, the Brits would have given us our freedom, we have home rule, go on out of that, and all this stuff while they collect me pension in Brussels, and the taxpayers one as well for my multiple ministries. And I was listening to this clown, who brought down the government over putting tax on children's footwear,
Yeah.
lecturing us about 1916.
But our heritage essentially, and it's, yeah.
And then we hear more from the government of the same ilk, from the different ministers, and I'm going like, oh, and then they're sort of having this thing like, oh, we have to have inclusivity. I tell you what, I gave them a good idea for inclusivity. I wrote to them saying, I know a lot of the relatives of and descendants of the executed leaders, like
Sure.
James Connolly Hearn, someone I played football with, and is now involved in Reclaim 1916. So I suggested that in the interest of reconciliation and inclusivity, we could invite them all to Harbour Hill, line them up against the wall where their grandfathers were all shot, and, we could bring over the relatives of the executioners, and we could have real bullets. Do you know what I mean?
I'd say that went down really well.
Yeah. No, I didn't like it much. Yeah.
Oh dear.
But it was deliberately provocative. I thought, what are they doing? Now they've made one good move to give them credit. They have saved Moore Street, the 4 buildings. The
I
rest
saw
of
that.
them are
I
all-
actually did the 1916
Yeah.
tour recently, and they mentioned
So
that. Yeah.
something good has come out of that, and they've kind of acknowledged that the relatives have a role. But they still back it, we want to commemorate this along with Gallipoli. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Commemorate Gallipoli. Plenty of my mother's friends were all for Empire bloody loyalists, so I knew plenty of those people, very fine people. But they had nothing to do with 1916. They were away fighting Johnny Turk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For whatever obscure reasons,
Well, at least thankfully we have people like you, and as you said, Bobby, taking this into your own hands and actually making
Bobby,
these fantastic,
Bobby set
beautiful
up
pieces.
the initiative, and Bobby always takes the initiative in things like this. How he does, because we're both getting on a bit, and then of course I join in
Not
as
yet,
well.
Jim. Not yet.
And there's no politicals involved in the sense that Sinn Féin are not behind us or anything like that. There's no political parties. It's deliberately apolitical, but very political.
Sure.
If you know what I mean. But no, I think it's high time we pay due deference to these people. The other problem I had, which cuts across everything that Bobby would believe in, for instance, so I'm not speaking for him or in Claim 1916, but I felt the 35-year war up there was an atrocity. Shouldn't have happened. And that's another reason I want to reclaim, you might say, our heritage, as opposed to the inclusivity by adding in all the people who died during the Northern War, And, I'd be here for the rest of my days to commemorate all of them, especially the innocents.
Yeah.
So, to me, these men who died in 1916 are heroes who died for our liberation and salvation. The Constitution they wrote, that all citizens, including women, are equal, we still haven't implemented that 100 years later.
Unfortunately, I think the world has implemented
women
that.
still don't have rights over their own bodies. It's extraordinary. And it says to cherish all of the children of the nation equally. Yeah, we cherish the rich kids. That's about it,
Yeah.
Anyway, don't want to give you a lecture.
No, please.
You can see where
I
1916...
can listen to you talk all day, yeah, no.
You can see where Reclaim 1916 is coming from, yeah.
So we'll go back a bit now. You're obviously more well known for your print of Che Guevara.
Sure.
You first met him in, was it 1961?
1961 in Kilkee.
You're 16,
I was
17?
sent down there by, I was educated by Franciscans. I'm still a ferocious fan of the Franciscans. They're the ones who invented liberation theology, don't forget, which liberated all of Latin America now, using the ideals of Che Guevara and mixing them in with Catholic teaching, which is correct. And I knew instantly who he was because I was a very political animal. I was only 15 or 16.
That's incredible.
And I'd been sent down by the Franciscans to earn money because they wouldn't take it from our family. From any family. We all had to earn our own money for a pilgrimage to Rome.
Okay.
Couldn't make it up. In the end, I spent the money on a bicycle. I didn't go to Rome. I got the flashiest sports bike you've ever seen. But I met Che Guevara. He walked into the bar. I knew who he was. I was kind of gobsmacked because my previous touch with fame and eccentricity, and my previous contact had been Richard Harris and his brother Dermot.
That's still pretty good,
and
though.
That other guy, Jack, who used to run the Westbury, his name's gone out of my head, very nice man. So, now Richard Harris wasn't as famous as he became later with Camelot, but he was a well-known character.
And Dumbledore and Harry Potter for people who might not know,
But he was just a live wire. And I always remember he was a great tipper, and Dermot was a great tipper. I remember too, Che Guevara didn't leave any tips, but there you go. I think he owes me something.
Yeah. And then, of course, you're very well known for the artwork you did for Phil Lynott and Sinead O'Connor. And you met Phil Lynott, I believe, in the Bailey for the first time.
Yeah, it's
Bailey
funny.
crowd.
I published a lot. For years I published a story about myself and Philip meeting with Peter Fallon, the poet, and Tom Collins, the photographer.
Yeah.
Because it's well documented. Even a film was on the other night on RTE about the Irish poets. And they went back to the 60s, and there's the picture of myself, Philip, and the whole gang, a couple of them, because Peter Fallon, obviously being a fine poet, was included in this programme. But no, Frank Murray, who's a great mate of mine, I was talking to him earlier on today about something else entirely, rang me and said, Jim, you have a great memory for detail, but you got the facts wrong here.
And I go,
no, I haven't, of course I haven't. He said, I was with you when you met Philip. And I thought, oh Christ, I remember. But Frank was the one who flew over with Philip.
Oh, okay.
Got Philip to meet me, because Philip had only seen me, we'd kind of run into each other at poetry readings and stuff that we used to do at Tara Telephone. Another Peter Fallon thing was Eamon Carr and a couple of others. And Philip just took to me and decided he wanted me to do all his artwork, because Tim Booth, who we originally wanted, and Tim was a mutual friend of ours, he's a superb artist still, and a very fine contemporary artist in his time as well, kind of neglected, I feel. But Tim had formed a group called Dr. Strangely Strange, who were signed by Island Records. Tim's first album cover was done by Roger Dean, one of my heroes and a friend of mine as well. But because Tim was with Dr. Strangely Strange, he'd done the first Lizzie logo, that kind of Cadillac thing, that I reused with his permission. He drew it up for me and I redrew it. And he hadn't time to do any artwork, so that suited me fine. Thank you, Tim.
So that worked out well for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And did you meet Sinead O'Connor as well in the Bailey, or was that through just the people you had?
No, I met Sinead O'Connor originally through her sister, the writer, whose name has gone out of my head. Not Jo, but the sister, Emer, who's a writer and a very good artist. A very talented family, actually. Because I love Joe O'Connor's stuff. It's incredible, even though I've never met him. But no, Sinead got to know me by accident once. I met her first, not at the airport, in the Pod nightclub. She was introduced to me by a girl called, I think it was Isha, who was this kind of a skinhead girl at the time I was taking photographs of. And she told me that when she was young, she was very young even then, but when she was very young, she used to have a picture of my goddess above her bedroom wall. And that inspired her to be a strong woman, because obviously she was having a hard time, as we all know, some serious abuse, physical abuse going on there. And I don't know, I just liked Sinead from the time I met her, and I ended up doing quite a lot of work for her. The first thing I did for her was This Is Not a Rebel Song, which is a wonderful single brought out, but vanished sort of fairly quickly because it was not the most pleasant topic, shall we say. It's the love story of a British soldier and an Irish girl. And I did a couple of album covers for her. The one I'm most proud of is Faith and Courage, which I think is one of the finest things I've ever done. And on the cover I have Sinead kind of receiving the holy blessing of the apostles, because she does have this mystical quality about her. And on the back I have her as a kind of a Buddha-like figure. And there I think I captured the essence of Sinead O'Connor.
Sure.
If you ever look at the back cover on that, you know, the front is a very good piece of art and marketing, but the back is, I think, more true to anything that you could think of. And I did Shannos Nua for her. I photographed her down in some remote place in Wicklow that she was recording in, and I did the famous nude of her as well.
I read about this actually recently. Initially, it was meant to be. It was commissioned for was it for the Bailey or for Lily's?
No, for Lily's Bordello.
For Lily's.
Dave Egan, who owned Lily's, was renovating Lily's Bordello,
Yeah.
and he said to me, "We want to have a big Bordello painting."
Yeah.
And I said, "Okay, as long as it's Valerie."
I read that. Yeah, it was
Valerie Rowe
was
was
yeah.
the manager, and a very good one too. She was a fabulous woman.
Sure.
And Valerie was all up for it, and then Valerie met a boyfriend and found love, and guess what happened next?
Yeah. Isn't that
Valerie-
what happened with Sinead as well?
Valerie's telling Sinead about it. Sinead said, "I'll do it."
Sure.
So I got this phone call that Sinead O'Connor was doing it. So myself and Dave were going, "Fucking yippee, business," you know, because
Yeah.
Sinead is wow, an icon. So she came out here, and I took the photographs with her then boyfriend present, so everything was above board.
Yeah.
And I painted her in the manner of Velasquez's Rokeby Venus, but instead of the little sort of cherub, you know, we've had enough of paedophile city in this country. I painted a dragon with a mirror with Sinead's face in it.
Okay.
In the Velasquez,
Yeah.
there's a little naked boy with a mirror, so we passed on that one
Sure.
for obvious reasons. You know?
And she ended up in the end buying it herself, didn't she?
Well,
She
what happened next was that her new husband, who I knew,
Yeah.
quite a nice character, said, "I'm not having your fucking bare bum up in Lily's Bordello." So get rid of it. So I got this phone call from Sinead. So the long story cut short is, I gave Dave Egan back the 10 grand he paid me. Sinead gave me the 10 grand.
Sure.
I went out of here under security, sworn to secrecy. I never told anybody about
Cloak and
it.
dagger stuff.
And then one day I get a phone call from Sky. I'm in effing South Africa, right? We won't go into why I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm in South Africa.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm
Story
on,
for another
I'm
day.
on Robben Island. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to witness what Mandela and the gang went through, and here's where they broke the rocks, and I'm going, what? New to Sinead O'Connor.
You're covering your
Never
phone?
heard
What?
of it. Don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But when I came home, they were waiting up my doorstep.
Really?
And,
wow.
No,
Okay.
next morning actually.
Sure.
But I was home the next day, and then I woke up the next morning to the doorbell ringing, and these guys from Sky News wanted the story of the nude for Sinead O'Connor, and I said, "Don't know what you're talking about."
Yeah.
And they said, "Jim, it's on the cover of the Times of India," and I
Oh
thought,
dear. It's like, damn it, I shouldn't have been away.
because I've been sworn to secrecy.
Okay.
So again, you know, the husband, or somebody objected to it. I don't know what. I think Sinead felt about her bad luck, which wouldn't surprise me. But it was sold by Ian White,
Okay.
the auctioneer, for 13.5 grand. So obviously it went up in price. And within a month or two, I got a phone call from me and said, "Jim, do you remember you said you wanted to buy that back? Are you still interested?" And I went, "Yeah." I went in to see him, but I only offered 8,000 for it,
Sure.
right? So he wasn't budging. And I said, "Just a matter of interest, what happened?" And I thought, there must be a script out there that has this line on it.
Yeah.
The same guy who bought it home, and his wife said, "I'm not having Sinead O'Connor's bare arse in our bedroom."
I'd have Sinead O'Connor's bare arse in my bedroom, I'll buy it.
Or words to that effect. So I went back to the
Yeah.
auction house. So it lay there for 2 years with me trying to negotiate a lower price all the time, because fucking I did it. I didn't want to pay the bloody commission fee, you know. It's
Yeah.
hard enough to earn money when you're an artist. And long story cut short, it went up for auction again. So my bid was in there. I was sort of, you know, supposed to be wrong when it went to 10, because I said I might go up to 10. But at this stage I was very low on money, and I was going to have to, you know, talk to the bank or something. But I thought I really would like it back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway, he rang me and said, "I'm not going to tell you what I went for. You'll read it in the papers." So the next day was all the papers. I went for like 17 grand or something phenomenal.
Really?
You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Or was it
insane.
24? I know it was some miraculous figure. No, it was 24 grand.
Wow.
You'll have to ring Ian White to verify it. I went for some astronomical figure anyway.
God, you
We're
have to
way
paint
out
a
of my
picture of my
reach.
bum and see how much we can sell that for.
Absolutely. Where's my pencil?
Let's aim for 30.
But anyway, that's where it ended up with somebody.
God.
Yeah, they paid 24 grand for it, and I still to this day don't know who it is.
Man. So you, obviously now you're extremely well known for your Celtic artwork and stuff. Do you travel around Ireland to get inspiration for the pieces that you do, or is this due to just
I used
obviously?
to walk Ireland when I was young, so I knew it inside out. Now I'm too lazy to go anywhere. I just like to get up in the morning, cycle the beach, go up, have my coffee, come back here and work my ass off, you know.
Okay.
And when you see where I live here, I hate having to
In
go
fairness,
anywhere.
you don't really need to go anywhere bar outside
No, but I
to
can
kind
be,
of get the
you
inspiration.
know, no matter where I was over in Russia photographing the Perm Ballet for Life magazine years ago, and I remember thinking, I love it here, the people are mad, had a great time. I couldn't wait to get home. So now I have to be dragged out of here. You know?
I think that's a good thing. I think people want to travel so much, and when they eventually do, they realise how much they actually miss home and want
But
to
you
go
can
home. I
have
think
everything
half
you
the
want
time.
here, you know, there's the most beautiful women if you're an artist and a photographer.
Yeah.
There's the most beautiful landscape if you're an artist and photographer, and there's wonderful people, and Holt is a fantastic place to live in. I'm right beside the city. I was in there on Saturday meeting one of my best mates, and it was beautiful just dossing around in a sunny Dublin.
It's pretty good, yeah.
Fabulous. And everybody's out in the streets. All the young people who used to leave, a lot of them are not leaving anymore thanks to the gay referendum. All those amazing gay people are staying.
Which actually I want to touch on. I first met you actually at an art gallery opening that was in support of gay and lesbian marriage, and you had a fantastic piece.
That's
in
right.
there,
I
yeah.
painted my cat.
Was that your cat? Okay,
That's it.
that makes sense
It
now
was
that I
called-
see.
The piece was called Elroy for Equality.
Yeah.
And it had Elroy, my cat, looking quizzically at me against a pink fuchsia background.
Yeah, it was good.
And on one side it had a speech balloon that says, does it matter if the cat is black or white as long as it catches mice? And on the other side, where he's doing this, it says, Elroy says, vote yes for equality.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
And it was called Elroy for Equality.
Yeah, that was a lovely
But my
exhibition.
God,
actually.
did I get trolled when I put that up on my Facebook page. Jesus.
Oh, people are
Pages,
great behind the
pages,
internet, aren't they?
pages.
Faceless
Well,
behind
there
the
was
internet.
only, to be fair, there was only 1 or 2 or 3 trolls, and all the people who defended me were women, which was fantastic.
Good.
To the point where, you can cut this bit out, where this trolling got really vicious,
Yeah.
and this woman wrote something, and I said, be careful, this guy will, come after you.
Sure.
And she wasn't. She decided to go further. She was winding them up like I was.
Yeah.
And she wrote down, by the way, some women like anal sex. And I thought, oh my God, he's going to go fucking mental, right?
Yeah.
So I wrote saying, you know what happens next. And she wrote, bring it on. And sure enough, we had pages of this crap.
Oh, dear.
And he was blaming everybody from the IRA to ISIS for homosexuality being legalised and putting all these fucking crazy ideas together that total nothing at all.
It's nonsense,
And was
yeah.
really rude and vicious. So at that point he started going on her and picking on her and calling her all the names, and so I had to block him.
Yeah.
And I left all the comments there, you know.
Sometimes that's all you can do. The more you argue back with someone that's
But as my daughter said,
delusional.
I'm worse, I wind them up.
Oh,
you know,
sure,
I
yeah.
think, bring them on. You
What
know.
else to do with a Monday afternoon?
Facebook is always full of people like that.
Yeah.
And I have a huge reliance on Facebook for my website because all my sales come through my gallery and through my Facebook page. I use that to promote my website. So it's very important to me. But I also use it for sheer entertainment.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, last night I was judging a fashion show for a Cradle, and it was some amazing looking guys dressed in Claire Garvey gear. It's the first time she's done menswear, and I love Claire Garvey's designs. So I put a beautiful one up, it just says one for the ladies.
Yeah.
And it's this strapping man walking down the catwalk.
It's like, come on, give me the computer, have a look.
Looking incredible, you know, because all my work is mostly to do with women, so here's a chance, you know, to entertain the ladies. So there's loads of ladies stuff. Jack L is up dressed in one of her things, and he looks
nice.
amazing.
Okay.
Jack L was doing modelling. That guy Owen McDermott from Ortiz, The Voice,
Yeah.
was doing it. So it was good fun, you know, but wonderful designs. But another good opportunity to sort of show some decent men off to the ladies instead of.
We ain't
ladies,
complaining,
yeah.
that's always a good
Nobody's
thing.
complained yet. I'm sure they will. You know.
And recently, actually, I'd be curious about this because you would be, I guess, quite political and very much invested in our heritage. I read a piece in the Irish Times last week by Fintan O'Toole, who kind of commented on how we seem to be selling our heritage for any price.
This is
and
one
this
about
was
the
Star
Skelligs.
Wars. Yeah.
And
so
I
just
replied.
for people, did you?
reply?
Okay,
Yeah.
just for people who might not know what this was about, Star Wars were basically granted the use of Skellig Michael, which is one of our, a UNICEF
Our
historic site.
foremost heritage sites.
Yeah.
And very sacred,
So basically, for the right price, they were given the use of this piece of our land. We all had to sign confidentiality agreements, the people who were looking after the land. So we had no idea what, Star Wars or Disney were doing with the piece of land until they left. Do you think that's a fair point that he made, that we are
I
willing
think
to
a
sell?
helicopter is accused of air washing a seagull chick off a nest. As far as I know, it's the only damage they did.
Okay.
I wrote to Fintan on the Irish Times website. I didn't want to write into the paper because I like Fintan, and I admire him hugely.
Sure.
And I would agree with 90% of everything he says. In this case, I think he's wrong. I'll tell you why. I know the background to this story. J.J. Abrams is the director. He's a huge supporter of anything Irish because of a woman called Trina Vargo, who's head of the US Ireland Alliance, who's a mate of mine,
Okay.
who has J.J. Abrams hosting the biggest after party besides the Vanity Fair one in Hollywood on Oscar Day, right? And she managed to convince J.J. Abrams to shoot in Ireland.
Okay.
And that is one of the greatest coups in the bloody history of filming. Now, I'll abstract myself. I'm an artist.
Yeah.
I care about our heritage. There's been a lot of accusations about how the Board of Works have performed there. They usually do a good job, but not if you go up to Greenon in beside Derry, where they've done a horrendous job with concrete in between the fucking stones. But normally they do a really good job. And there was a lot of criticism at the time of making faux monastic settlement pieces that didn't exist, including the toilet. There is good archaeological evidence they had a toilet.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Obviously they had to.
Great.
You wouldn't want to be sticking your bare bum out in over the cliffs of the Skelligs.
Sure.
So there's a lot of very precious stuff there. But there's also tourists. So there's also, everything has to be made safer for these tourists. So it's been interfered with anyway.
Okay.
But not in any destructive way that I can see. Believe me, running a road through Tara is destruction.
I was going to
You
ask
know what I
about
mean?
that, yeah,
And
completely.
we don't hear much about that and all the clouds
That's
who took the backhanders,
Yeah.
And I just felt, we should be jumping up and down as a country that something as sacred as Skelligs is going to be a worldwide tourist attraction because of this. Now, I don't know how they're going to cope with that.
That's what I'm saying. Could you not argue maybe that
Because-
that's maybe not a good thing as well, that there'll be so many people coming to now walk
Well,
around
2 have
this?
already died, you have to remember,
Okay.
have fallen, It's not the best place to have tourists. But on the other hand, there's no reason why loads of people can't sail around it and maybe just stand at the edge
Sure.
of a jetty or something and have
Yeah.
a look without everybody having to climb up all over these places. But that's the nature of tourism. And it's only a passing thing, you know what I mean?
Sure.
It might last a century, it mightn't even last that long.
Yeah.
But the Star Wars thing is going to bring people down to that neck of the woods, not just the Skelligs, that
Oh,
whole
big time.
area. Because they want to see the Skelligs, so they don't even have to go out to it. They just, people just want to see these things. They don't necessarily want to be in the beehive huts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they're well protected, There's all kinds of beautiful wildlife there. I could go into a rhapsody about it. And I even wrote that, the protected seagulls, she's gone down to Beshelt and see the protected seagulls eating people. But
Lovely.
there was a great picture about a year ago in the Irish Times of a seagull swallowing a little baby rabbit whole. And I said, if these are protected
Was
species that they're worried about with Star Wars,
Grim.
tell the rabbits,
Tell the rabbits.
Anyway, then somebody else wrote to me saying, well, rabbits are not indigenous to Skelligs, but seagulls are. And I went, oh, fuck this.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
can never win the argument. But I agree with Fintan, our heritage has to be
To a degree.
protected.
Yeah.
We could start by not running roads through it.
Like the Hill of Tara, as you
which
said, yeah.
absolutely destroyed a huge chunk of
Sure.
Ratloo. I've done a painting of Lou doing his battle display before he enters Tara. And that very hill where he did his battle display, now was a big chunk taken out. Now, thanks to John Gormley, it's still there.
Yeah.
Because he then rerouted the road, so that chunk is missing, but the whole thing isn't gone, But the vandals who did that were Bertie Ahern and his government, and Meath County Council. And God knows how much they got in their ass pockets for it,
And do you, again, just touching on your Celtic art, do you have a favourite piece that you have done? Is one of them your baby?
Yeah,
that you're...
these two up here over the fireplace.
Yeah, these are
as
stunning.
Celtic works go, I love them because they're not quite as Celtic, they're more me.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose, you know, the influence of Harry Clark, who I love, is pretty obvious there. You know?
It is, yeah. They are
But yet they don't
absolutely
look like
stunning.
any of Harry Clark's works.
No.
You know?
It's very much you, but the colours and everything are just, they are beautiful. And do you have obviously I read somewhere that your granddad actually kind of got you really started in loving Irish
Well, my granddad's
Irish
books
Celtic.
did, and the fact that he was an artist did,
Yeah.
but he died in 1912.
And he, oh, sorry, okay.
No.
And he knew, was it true, he knew Arthur Conan Doyle's uncle, and they
Dickie
worked
Doyle,
together.
absolutely.
Yeah.
He knew everybody. He's like me. He knows bloody everybody. But he was a friend of all the revolutionaries. He worked with Arthur Griffith. The Irish Times wrote about him recently because there's a book out about him,
Okay.
calling him the cartoon wing of the nationalist movement.
Okay.
Because he was a political cartoonist.
Is that the Thomas Fitzpatrick?
Thomas
book?
Fitzpatrick,
Yeah.
yeah. But the stuff he wrote, you wouldn't get away with now. If you wrote about Dennis O'Brien the way he wrote about Dennis O'Brien's contemporaries, like Murphy or any of the gang, you know, Murphy was the owner of the Irish Independent at the time, who supported the police beating the crap out of the workers, and Jim Larkin,
Sure.
hated Jim Larkin. But my grandfather did a piece, very supportive, and he was a friend of Murphy's. He worked for the Irish Independent and the Freeman's Journal before that as a cartoonist. But he didn't mince his words about what was going on at the time.
Yeah.
If you published that today, you'd be into jail, and then probably or you'd certainly be in the dock in the High Court and in the jail after it, probably, you know, because it was absolutely. It was saying the truth, but in a venomous way. And his cartoons are quite venomous against corruption as well. He took that on, and you know, you'd have the faces of the corrupt with the bills coming out of their back pockets. Try doing that today.
Oh no, God.
You know, with Fine Gael back and pretend the Moriarty Tribunal never existed, whitewashing it, and making sure the district director of public prosecutions doesn't pursue it while they're running after Paul Murphy, the water charge guys. That's extraordinary what's going on in this country. There's been a coup.
Yeah.
We have a new system of justice. It's a two-tier system of justice that ordinary people can't afford, purely for the rich. And the rich, they have most of the judges on their side anyway, as we saw with the case where RTE tried to publish some of that report. And Judge Binchy took Dennis O'Brien's side and decided he would not allow it. Remember, we had press censorship and media censorship on a massive scale that we'd never had before in this country. And now they're trying to take on the Dáil and silence the Dáil, so the Dáil can't even discuss these things. Now remember, Judge Binchy, who, and I have to be careful how I say this, is from the same constituency as Phil Hogan and Michael Lowry. And I'm sure he's a very fine person. I put up a tag on Twitter that says impeach Binchy. That's how I feel about it.
Okay. Yeah. And do you think...
they're all in it together. They're all the boys' club, you know.
Yeah.
They're all the same schools. They're all the same contacts, you know. And now they run the place in a way that Fianna Fáil could only have dreamt of in their wet dreams, you know.
And do you think in schools nowadays there's enough emphasis kind of being taught about our Irish heritage? And I mean, I know myself, because you do so much on Celtic myths and legends, and even a friend of mine is doing a show on it, and I didn't know half of the stories.
Yeah, but I think there's a reason for it, and I'll tell you why. It's an interesting theory you might find. I was educated by men. There were no females. The only female was a music teacher later called Miss Courtney. I can still remember to this day. She was a redhead. Very beautiful. And I'd be playing the piano, watching her movements. And now there's a huge influx of women in teaching. And that minister, his name has gone out of my head, the previous Minister for Education, decried the fact that he called it the feminization of our system. These women have brought a new way of looking at things, in the sense that when I was young, we learned about the Tuatha Dé Danann and the early mythology of Ireland in 2 paragraphs in a history book.
Okay.
We'd hear legends like the Children of Lear. There were about 2 or 3 legends we were allowed to know about because they were safe, you know. And no women were involved really, you know. But these women who've come into education over the past 30, 40, 50 years have changed the whole education system in a way that I think is much more interesting, but certainly in relation to our heritage. They are much more hardwired to our heritage and unafraid to teach it.
Okay.
So there's been a seismic shift in attitudes. And for some reason my work appeals hugely to women as opposed to men. Now I know this from a simple fact.
Yeah.
I did a Bank of Ireland calendar in 1984, and we did a mock-up and then put it before one of these panels, you know, these sort of, what they call them, focus groups.
Sure.
That they now use for politics, can you imagine? But it's a good way of finding out what people thought.
Yeah.
And 84% of my work, women loved it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was only 60% for men.
Really?
And I remember thinking, oh, I'm doing something right. You know?
Yeah, yeah,
'Cause I
yeah.
was brought up by women, not
Sure.
men.
Yeah. That's incredible. And did you have a favourite myth or legend when you were growing up, one that you kind of related to, that you're like, this is making me want to do artwork about this? Was there anything in particular that you were drawn
It was
to?
an accidental discovery of the stories of a race called the Tuatha Dé Danann and the hero Nuad of the Silver Arm.
Sure.
I never heard about this in school.
Nope.
Do you know what I mean?
I only heard about this recently,
But I heard
actually.
about it when I was very young, because I won't go into all the details, but I
Mhm.
spent a lot of time down in County Clare. I was recovering from TB. And then we had the polio epidemic in Dublin, so I was sent down to try and save myself from polio, because
Yeah.
I used to get everything, you know. And I really got into the myths and legends down there because they were alive. There were pishogues, there were superstitions. My aunt used to leave milk out for the fairies, you name it.
That's
You
good.
know what I mean? All the sort of stuff. There were fairy trees, thorny bushes.
Sure.
You could fell every piece of birch in the whole area, every piece of hedge and, you know, whatever, but you couldn't touch the fairy tree, you know. And I used to spend hours sitting under the fairy tree waiting for fairies to appear, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Not many of them did, you know. But maybe with smoke they would. But certainly you were aware of a kind of a quasi-mystical presence that I
Sure.
still believe exists. It's something to do with the magnetism of the area. Obviously, I'm not
Mhm.
an expert in these things. But certain areas you can feel the energy, and it can be negative, it can be positive, you know. And there's no doubt about it, you can feel it. And some of it is extraordinarily powerful.
Yeah.
But I grew up with a very vivid knowledge of Irish myths and legends that was slightly different from the ones we learned in school, from the ones I heard at home. It was a much more vigorous version, and I took to that. And the
Mhm.
stories of the Tuatha Dé Danann, you know, I found I had to learn more. So while I was in school, I would doss around what they called Bachelor's Walk, where they had
Yeah.
old bookshops, buy old books, and I came upon Keating's History of Ireland, which is all the text from the old Book of Invasions, and that got me going.
Okay.
That's when I started, yeah.
God, I could literally talk to you for hours and do hours and hours more footage, but I guess I'll kind of wrap it up, I think, on maybe one more question.
Nice to talk to you, absolutely.
Yeah, you too. So, out of everything that you've done in your entire career, for you personally, what's been, or have you had your favourite moment? What's been the most important thing to you so far?
My own favourite work is my work that I'm kind of doing secretly for the past 30 years, called Mostly Women.
Mm-hmm.
But if you ask me what gives me the most pride, obviously I have to sooner or later get back to Shay and the poster. Professor Martin Kemp,
Yeah.
who's the Emeritus Professor in the History of Art in Oxford University, has written a book about 2 years ago called From Christ to Coke, Iconic Images. And he actually came over here to see me.
Mm-hmm.
But he is the world expert on Leonardo, and he is the man who discovered La Bella Principessa and verified Salvatore Mundi, which were in the big Leonardo da Vinci exhibition, National Portrait Gallery in London 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the guy at the moment investigating the Battle of Alghiri, which he now, and we all know, is under a painting by Vasari in Florence. So Leonardo's most famous painting that he made a complete cock of, because they found mucky stuff where he set it on fire
Oh,
to
dear,
try and
okay.
heat it up. But anyway, he has written a book, and Mona Lisa's in at number 5 and Shay is in at number 6
I
of the
saw
greatest iconic images in the history of civilization.
That's pretty incredible.
So when I saw that, my heart kind of stopped.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, I've done something interesting with my life.
You
Yeah.
have.
But like I said, it's all this work I'm doing with women at the moment that I'm just wondering what the hell to do with now. So much of it. You know.
Well, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you for
Oh,
letting us
well.
into your home and your studio.
I enjoyed
Thank you.
it.
Good,
It was fun,
thank you.
Absolutely. Maybe put a cat asleep.
I know.